Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, the show that inspires each of us to see how we have the power to make a difference all around us. Each episode highlights an individual doing good in the world while following their passions, good for their own souls and for others. I get so excited about sharing each and every episode of Be the Good with you, and I hope you enjoy these people and stories. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I'm so glad you found Be the Good with Kate and would love to hear from you. If you're finding value in these episodes, I invite you to share with someone who could also use this dose of good news, or tag me on social with your favorite quote from the episode. Every share, subscriber, review, and comment helps me to share these guests' wonderful work to more people. Thank you for your help in this. Now, on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world. Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to Angela Mazzi, who is an architect and firm partner whose research and designs promote well-being. Her list of accolades and awards is a long one, and she also founded Architecting, a community consisting of a podcast, online learning, and weekly clubhouse room, Architects as Healers, Buildings as Medicine. Her research linking wellness to design is published in healthcare journals and presented at national and international conferences. And Angela, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
Well, thanks for having me, Kate. I am really excited to join you on your wonderful show.
Oh, thank you. And I was so excited to get to be interviewed by Angela for her show. So we got to do a little flip-flop here. And it was really neat to discover all the ways that, the idea of architecting goes so far beyond buildings. And I love that you are highlighting that in what you do. But before I go off on a tangent there, please tell everybody else a bit more about who you are and what you do in your own words.
Yeah, so like Kate mentioned, I am an architect, and what led me to that is that from a very young age, I was very aware that space felt like something. So I was one of those kids that would climb on top of the refrigerator or behind the couch. And really, the whole room felt different to me when I saw it from a different vantage point. And I was always curious about space, and most importantly, how space could make us feel. And when I got to architecture school at Carnegie Mellon, I had a chance to take this amazing class called The Psychology of Habitation. And that really connected so many dots for me because I got a chance to see why space can impact well-being. Things like helping people find their way, helping to reinforce certain behaviors or activities, encouraging movement, encouraging or discouraging socialization. And that really kind of set the tone for my whole career going forward. And it is what I do today. I work with something called salutogenesis, which is design for well-being. However, as I'm doing all of this and really passionately advocating for all of this, I'm also noticing that my colleagues are feeling a little bit disillusioned from time to time. It's sort of the ups and downs of working, right? A client doesn't always write blank checks, even though we would love that. They don't always value what we value. Sometimes office politics can get in the way. And what I would notice is people might change firms because they became disillusioned with what they were doing. But after about a year, that halo effect would wear off. And then they had the exact same complaints, just at a different place. And that's what really led me to form the architecting community, because I know how powerful design is and how important creativity is in this world, not just through being an architect, but all ways of being creative. And so many creative people are putting a lid on themselves. And it's really time to stop that. And so the architecting community is really there to provide inspiration and support to creative people.
Something that just I've become so obsessed with in doing so many episodes now, Be the Good with Kate, is this idea of just how interconnected all of these industries and jobs are. Even when on the surface, we might look at it, some might see, oh, Angela's an architect. I don't have anything in common with that. I don't build buildings. I didn't go to school for that. But yet you just gave us such a great overview of how it affects us. It affects our mentality, our psychology. And thinking back to some even recent guests, we had someone come on and talk about fashion, and he really delved into the psychology of that, someone who's a home organizer, and how that tied into just everything about our psyche and like where we live and the calm. So I love hearing all of this. And I think it's going to be so great for listeners too, to just really open our minds to, wow, really, space really does make such a big difference. Like I encourage listeners, even wherever you're listening to this right now, just to look around and kind of take note of some of those details. And Angela, I'm curious now about how, on top of everything else you're doing, being an architect, you mentioned a little bit about forming the architecting community, but how you really took those steps to say, I'm going to make a podcast, I'm going to make Clubhouse, I'm going to really bring these people together, and how you made time for that, both logistically, but also just your mental space of that.
Sure, that's a great question. And it's one I get a lot. And I actually always say we make time for what matters. We make excuses for what doesn't. Because if we really look at how our day is structured, how much time do you spend, surfing the internet, binge watching TV, doing things that maybe are relaxing, maybe not, but aren't necessarily advancing anything about your life. And I'm not saying we should always be working, because that's not a good strategy either. But what I found was this energizes me because I'm so passionate about it. And when we do things we're passionate about, we do have the energy. And I just feel so strongly called. I mean, I don't have to do this, right? I have a full-time job, I'm busy, but I just really have a hard time turning a blind eye to the creative crisis that we have going on, and the way that it leads to unhappiness and disillusionment and people dropping out of creative professions. And then the world is losing out from everything we have to bring. So that is my big motivation and my driving force. And as I see things, I've tried to respond to them. So I did publish a book a couple of years ago called Time Builder that deals specifically with how can we think differently about how we use our time. And it has a lot of great strategies there, because I know if you are creative, you don't like following the rules. You don't like keeping things in a planner. It's about more than to-do lists. It really is about how you structure your time, how you build in opportunities to rest, how you let your subconscious mind do the work and trust the process, how we overcome perfectionism and other codependent traits that are especially rampant in creative professions, because there's no right answer. So we get hooked into overperforming and people pleasing. So I address all of that in the Time Builder book, because I know that it is a real struggle for so many of us.
I love that. And so that leads me to ask you, what are some examples of those good news moments that you've gotten to witness through your work, through whether it's clients you've designed for or fellow architects or people in this community who've really had those aha moments along the way?
Sure. So I think whenever somebody sees how they can live their purpose, that is a win. And so much of life, we don't really believe that that's possible. So whenever someone can find their way to unlocking that, I get really excited. So with some of the people that I have coached, they've realized that their career doesn't have to look like their friend's career or their classmates or their coworkers. I've just been working with a woman more recently who went into a whole different industry because she realized that her skills with her architecture education were definitely ones she valued, but applying them in a traditional career was not something that she valued. So being able to make those connections is really important because now she can focus on issues she really cares about and just do it in a different way. You know, so many times we accept the status quo that, well, this is what I have to do. And we never stop to say, well, why? Who said so? Is that really true? And the same goes in projects. So many times a client comes to an architect because they either need to build new space or they've outgrown and need to do some work on existing space, but their thinking is only limited to what they know is possible. So they think, well, I just need newer space or bigger space. And a lot of the work that we do is around unpacking where their pain points really are and getting to the root cause of them, and then solving for where they want to be, not where they are today. So same process applied in two very different ways, but it really is about questioning the status quo and looking for that adjacent possible that may not seem connected to where you are now, but that can really be what unlocks innovation and possibility.
Questioning the status quo, how important that is. And just in terms of finding our passions in life, our purpose in life, we can't just keep going on the, oh, what's it called? I almost said Ferris wheel, hamster wheel, right?
That too.
That one too, anything like that, of just that circular motion of people. And I see it all the time, and I'm sure you do too. And I'm sure every listener has plenty of people who they've had conversations with who can't stand their job or they don't know what they want, but to really take the time to ask the questions. I'm so happy that you pointed that out and that you are working to help others find that all the time. And are there any mantras or sayings that you come back to when things are getting especially hard for you? Because I'm sure it hasn't all been smooth sailing. You're a creative. When is it ever, right?
Right. Well, one of my favorite sayings is, if you know it will work, it isn't creative. So it means we have to lean into discomfort, lean into more uncertainty for sure. But isn't that why we're doing what we're doing, right? It is about discovering. And so when we notice ourselves looking for the easy answer or looking for the precedent so that we can feel comfortable, that's how we know that we're not growing. We're sort of in a state of, maybe stability, which can feel good sometimes, but too much stability for too long leads to stagnation. So we really have to think about having that growth mindset and challenging ourselves to learn and grow and take risks all of the time, which then means we have to have a little bit of a different relationship with failure. So failure isn't about shame. It isn't about being wrong. It is about discovering. And that's a tough one. And it's one I deal with every day. And these things are like peeling an onion too. You might work on personal growth and your consciousness around these issues, but you still have triggers. And as you expand, you bump up against something else, and then you have to work on that. So I would say don't be too hard on yourself, but start noticing. Just being aware that you're having these reactions allows you to detach a little bit from them and then start to think differently, because you can start to see the old pattern. And now you can say, wait, I don't want to go there. I want to choose something different.
If I were listening to this podcast on my own right now, I would hit pause right now, rewind about 2 minutes, and then listen to that all one more time, because that was filled with with so much great wisdom and just actionable advice too. Angela, absolutely love this. And I had a question for you. I'm looking at my cheat sheet here. You talk about something called the built environment. There have been so many neat, just different terms that I'm not used to hearing in everyday life and that you've brought up. And this is one of them. And you talk about how you advocate every chance you get to raise awareness of the importance of the built environment. And you've talked about it now. And so I think that we all as listeners can get an idea of what that is now. I love just the phrasing of it, but is there anything else that you'd like to highlight around that idea?
Sure. So the built environment is more than just a building or a house or a room. It is really anything that has not been naturally occurring. So we are talking about the streetscape. We are talking about plazas and open spaces and parks, like anything where a human being has consciously created some kind of spatial relationships is the built environment. And why it's important to have that bigger view is because unless you go live in the woods and live off of the land somehow or nomadic, you are in some kind of built environment. Even if you camp, the tent is a constructed space. So we are constantly impacted by the decisions that usually someone who is not us has made about our surroundings. And the reason it's important to be conscious of that is because they're having an impact on us. And we may not be aware of it, but we could be experiencing a lot of stressors from our environment that we don't even know about. So, for example, lighting quality. A lot of buildings are still on fluorescent lights that will flicker a little bit, and it's imperceptible. However, our body is still aware of that flicker and it is still causing stress. Many of us work in an open office environment. That's like the thing now. It's hot and trendy. And yet we don't consider how psychologically unsafe we feel when our back is exposed and people can be coming up behind us without us seeing them. And we don't always realize that maybe we're working somewhere where we can't see outside and we have no sense of the weather or the time of day, or that we may be in an environment that is devoid of any texture or richness or color, and our body is looking for that connection to the natural world. So there's a lot of ways, if you are feeling tired, if you are feeling stressed out, look beyond maybe the social situations that you're in and start looking at your environment. And are there some changes you could make there, including choosing to be in a different kind of space that could affect your physical and mental well-being?
I just absolutely love this, like how much deeper architecture is than what we saying, like people not in the field of architecture tend to think of as just, oh, build the buildings, period, the end. There's so much to it. And you've done such an amazing job highlighting this. And Angela, last question for you. If someone came to you and said, I see how you're making a difference, and with a career that we don't always necessarily put together with, oh, let's definitely be purposely making a difference each day, how would you direct this person if they said, I want to do it too, but I don't know how to, I don't know where to start?
So definitely architecture is a career where you need a specialized degree. So you would want to look at architecture schools or interior design schools. Interior design is an adjacent profession. It is not about decorating. I want to make that clarification, but it is a different degree. You can get that training and then you can go and work in a lot of different ways. So the most traditional path is to work for an architecture firm or an interior design firm. A lot of firms, like my firm, has both, and they work collaboratively. Or you could also start to think about, could you work as an educator? Could you work as a nonprofit and be educating the community? You could work for a facility. So a lot of architects work for universities or hospitals or other large organizations because they want to have architects on staff. You can work for cities in their planning departments or zoning departments. There are just lots and lots of different ways that you can be helping people connect better with the built environment through policies, through design decisions, through raising awareness. So it's pretty broad.
Yes, absolutely. Angela, thank you so much. And where can everyone find you and follow you online?
Sure. So I am at architectingpodcast.com. That is my website. And from there, you can link to the books, to courses I offer, to social media channels, and to the clubhouse room where we do the Architects as Healers, Buildings as Medicine interviews. You can also find me on most social media. I'm on LinkedIn. Just look for my name, Angela Mazzi, and you'll find me. I also have accounts for architecting that you can find. So on Instagram, it's Architecting Podcast. On Facebook, there's a Facebook page called Architecting. So lots of places. I'm also on Twitter. The handle is at Angela Mazzi.
Angela Mazzi, thank you so much for what you are doing. Thanks for being here, and I can't wait to share this.
Well, thank you, Kate. It has been an absolute pleasure.
In taking classes over the years or observing workout videos, one major piece that is often missing: stressing safety and form. Additionally, group fitness classes are often marketed as being open to all levels, yet how often do instructors not give modifications nor progressions so that each participant truly can get what he or she needs out of the class? So that's why I created the 101 series, which take things back to basics with 3 separate courses: Bar 101, Pilates 101, and HIIT 101, focusing on safety and efficiency so you can maximize your workouts. Be confident when you step into a group fitness class or workout on your own. Be strong in your execution of the most common exercises, and be proud of yourself for taking these huge steps forward on your health journey. Check it out at bebykate.com. The link is in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.